Hi, everyone. Welcome to Infinite Life, Infinite Wisdom, where we talk all things afterlife. I'm your host, Susan Grau, and today we're going to talk about the characteristics of a child empath. I got so much feedback on my empathic podcast previously that I decided to step into it just a little bit deeper. Children are a rare breed. And for us adult empaths, we learn to manage that behavior and choices and feelings. But as a child, we do not know how. So we're going to go deep dive into that. So let's go. Child empaths are very different. We call a lot of people empaths. And although there's different levels of empathic energy, an empath is different. An empath actually walks in your energy. They feel your energy as if they're you. They pick up so much information and so much, especially if you're in trauma, but even joy, they suck that in. So as a child, that's a lot to carry when you're out in the world. So you're walking out in the world with all these adults with all these emotions. And we as a children are trying to maneuver and manage through that. Children are extremely sensitive regardless. So imagine a child empath. And an empath, again, I'm just going to say, is someone who feels the feelings of others and sometimes doesn't know what to do with them. We want everything to be good. We want to disregard the importance of our own healing efforts, and we want to help everything else heal. So you'll see a lot of child empaths, they're playing with doctor, or someone else is playing, army. Um, they want to heal their little animals. They're very sensitive. They watch Bambi and cry because Bambi's mom passed away. They have a very hard time with the energy around them that is anything but beautiful. And so you can kind of recognize them through that. But there are no clear-cut answers of what a child empath is, but because there's different degrees. But I really believe a child who is crying over Bambi's mom, and really, I mean, harshly reacting to it, might be your empathic child. Also, just knowing what you feel and don't feel. Like, "Yeah, I know you're mad at me. No, I'm not. I know you are." There's a lot of that going on, even though we don't want them to know we're upset because maybe it's not even about them, but they're feeling everything. They have quick responses to things. So you might be having a conversation and they think that you've said something that might mean they're not good enough or they're not enough, and they're going to go overboard with that. And they're going to feel it instantly. And you can't really trick them. It's really hard to trick them. So they're very kind souls. They genuinely care about others, and they're very gentle. So being out in the, school settings where there's bullies and things like that, they're the opposite end of a bully. And in fact, they're usually the ones that are bullied because they cry easy and they're tender. Male empaths children tend to cry really easy. The females do too, but when you see little boys crying, unfortunately, in especially in our generation, it was not an acceptable thing to fathers, and fathers would say they're mommy's boys. You're going to hear that a lot. They're mommy's boys. Well, that's not true. They're spirit's boys, and they're feeling the energy of what's going on around them and the pain of what's going on around them. So, it's an important thing to distinguish the difference of what's empathic and what isn't. So, and also, let me put these arms down, a different level of empathic energy. So, we are sensitives, and children are even that much more sensitive because they haven't learned to manage their emotions. So imagine being an empathic adult and that you've gone through years of learning to manage your emotions and deal with all of the trauma in the world, etc., at least to the best of your ability. A child hasn't learned to do that. So a child is overly sensitive to the point that they're overwhelmed with feelings, and they quickly become overwhelmed. That's an important part of it. So where an adult will pause and say, what am I feeling here? And they're processing it. Child empath will just go right to pain, crying, suffering, etc. I want to be really clear that they suffer, yes, but they also have such wonderful qualities, and they also feel joy very quickly. So if you're happy, they're happy. If the environment's happy, they're happy. They're the ones that have the most fun. They're talking to everyone and they're running through the crowd and they're jumping in the pool and they're just being part of completely. And they love attention in a good way. So say they're, pool jumpers, they're going to jump in that pool and they're going to say, do it again, do it again, do it again. And, they want to be they want to be whole and part of everything that's going on around them. But that high sensitivity, they share love and sometimes they don't receive it. And unfortunately, they get desperate in that energy. The realm they inhabit is different than here. They're kind of in both worlds. And that's how I lived, was in both worlds. I felt the world here, but I also was in the energy of the souls and spirits on the other side. They do pick that energy up also, very deep empaths. So I want you to remember that. They're the ones that will say, something's in my room, I'm scared. I don't know what I'm hearing, but I'm hearing something, or I'm seeing something, or I'm feeling something. Feeling is huge for them. So that's called clairsentient. When they have clairsentient, they are feeling everything that's going on around them. So we want to be sure that we're letting them know that they're safe and secure and that you're there for them. And that they don't have to be afraid. That's an important one. They don't have to be afraid, but they don't know that. Empaths need truth. Now, let me tell you why. They're like little lie detectors, especially children, and they don't know what that means. So they're always in doubt of what someone's telling them if they don't feel total truth. They know truth. And they're going to trust you, though. So there's the dichotomy. You tell them, oh, no, that's not what really is. And they go, well, I feel that. I sense that's what it really is, but mama's telling me it's not, or daddy's telling me it's not. So they learn to not trust their judgment. So a good way to deal with that with an empathic child is to say, if they ask you, are you mad? To answer the question honestly. Well, yes, I am upset. And let me tell you why. Instead of, I'm not mad, go to your room. That's a mad response. And then they go, well, I feel they're mad. I think they're mad, but they're saying they're not. How do I trust my judgment? And they're doing that innately. That's not something they're consciously thinking necessarily. Adults will think that through. A child just trusts. And yet they feel different than what you're telling them. It's a big deal. So you want to be sure and be honest with them, because you really can't get past them without being honest. They know the truth. They know it. So step into honesty with them. Children that are empaths should not be watching horror stories. Once they feel it, they can't unfeel it. Once they see it, they can't unsee it. Once they know it, they can't unknow it. So we want to avoid negative images with them. We want to avoid showing them things that will cause them pain, or telling them stories that will cause them pain. So we want to kind of enter into a different direction with them. So if something bad is happening in the world, or they hear about something bad, we want to come from a place of, the spirit world has control of this and they know what to do. We don't have to fix this. We are safe. You don't need to be afraid, and so on. We really want to embed in them a sense of safety, but we don't want to go into details around them. So let's say someone's going through, let's just talk about something simple like a divorce situation. When you start telling an empathic child all the bad things about the other parent, they're taking that in and they become very confused. It doesn't leave them. They can't unhear it. And that's really important. So remember when you're talking to your empathic child that you're very careful about how you present it. So if they do have a father, let's say, that's narcissistic, we don't keep going on and on and on. We say, I know that it's really hard for daddy to understand your emotions. And that's hard on you, but that's not done purposely to harm you. And we want to be very gentle about how we talk to them, because they already know. We don't need to add to it. They know when they're with fathers or mothers who are narcissistic, and they get very confused very quickly, and they can't unknow what you tell them. So if you tell them things about their father or their mother that are negative and painful, they're going to slide right into that, and then they're going to be confused. Yes, we honor their feelings. So we might say, I hear you. You're telling me that Mommy isn't being kind to you. Let me tell you some ways that you can deal with it. That means people, adults, that we need to heal ourselves and how we deal with it. Empaths might, well, let me do this differently. Narcissists may do something to you and then victimize you for being the victim that they have created, and then blame you for your reactionary behavior or your response. So we have to learn as adults, the way I respond is okay. You can do, yes, others can do whatever they choose to do. And you can choose to feel and respond the way that you need to choose and respond. Let me say that again. The narcissist or the angry person or the mean person can do whatever they choose to do. They're right. They have the freedom to do whatever they want. And you, in turn, have the freedom to respond the way that you feel and feel what you feel. You don't have to change your feelings or responses because they think you should. And what will happen is you'll be punished for that. So you can honor that they're going to do what they're going to do. You don't have to like it. And they're going to punish you for feeling what you feel if it's not in line with what they want you to feel. Pretty messed up, right? So if your child goes out into the world and deals with that, imagine how confused they're going to get. They feel badly because something was said or done to them. They don't know how to react or respond to it. We have not taught them that your response is just as valid as what that person chose to do, that you have the freedom to have your natural response to that. We teach them not to react, but to respond, and we ask them to pause. So I ask my empathic children to pause and not react because we're so reactionary, and then honor what they feel and what they think, and to recognize that maybe that empath or that narcissist is going to punish them for that. Usually it's ghosting. That's usually the best punishment they can give. So, and we don't like being ghosted. Oh my God, it's so hard and painful. But as adults, we learn to honor that that's their right and to go about our business and take care of ourselves. But children don't know that. So they come home and they say, Mommy, this is what's happening. Mean girls are treating me mean, and they're doing this and they're doing that because I said I don't want to talk bad about that little girl. And now they're picking on me. What do I do? And it's really hard for us if we haven't healed our own energy to be able to say, you still know what you're feeling and honor what you feel. Your feelings are valid. Instead of do this, do that, do this. Because when I was raising my children, I would tell them what to do. And then thumbs up. Thank you so much. And then they don't need to do, or they don't learn to do what is good for them. So, and what's right for them. And they don't learn to trust their judgment. So I wish I would have done that differently. I wish I would have said to my children, I trust your judgment. Tell me what you think you should do. And then maybe add a little to it. That sounds wonderful. And how about this also? Because otherwise we learn to take responsibility for the outcome of everything that happens in their lives. And we become the bad guy. And they don't become accountable in their adulthood. So it's really important and then we got to do it later in life, which is extremely painful, by the way. So it's really important to teach our children to trust their judgment. So if they feel badly about something, we honor that. We don't try to talk them out of it. So if someone treats them bad at school, as a child, they're going to come home, they're going to feel like they're oversensitive, something's wrong with them, but they know the truth, and they feel pain. And we want to let them know that what you feel is as valid as what they said. And also going a step further, because people think something doesn't make it true and because they say it doesn't make it true. So we need to teach our empathic children that. So staying out of the horror stories, wanting them to learn what their truth is, teaching them that they are sensitives. They're not sensitive. They are sensitives. And when they know that, they were created to be sensitives, that's a valuable gift, and go in even deeper and teach them what a sensitive is. Instead of, you're just oversensitive, which is what they hear in their homes and what they hear out there. How does that serve them? I know you love your children, and we get confused about how to handle that because, unfortunately, Empathic children learn to be victims very quickly. We want to remove that process with them. So that's being of support of them and honoring their feelings and saying, I understand you feel this way. I understand this was painful for you. How can you deal with that differently so that you don't give your power away to the other children? Because what they do is they cry and they become the victim very quickly, very easily. We want to teach them how to do that differently. So learn about empathic energy. You can find it online. Look up the traits of the empath. That'll help you. We always believe that peace begins through healing. So what happens? The empathic child jumps in and tries to heal everything. Children don't want to be healed. Some adults don't want to be healed. They want to feel what they feel. So we become in a position of making them angry. People who want to feel what they want to feel. We need to teach our children that our healing work needs to start with us. Let's heal how we feel. Let's heal ourselves internally. And that way, when they go out into the world, they're not just fixing everything and everyone. That's called codependency, doing for others what they could and should do for themselves. Children learn that very young. They learn to compare their insides to other people's outsides. That's what they learn. And we don't know what other people feel internally unless we ask them. And normally as a child, we're not going to ask that question. And sometimes as an adult, it's not safe. So we are comparing ourselves continuously, our insides to their outsides, our insides to their outsides, and they're always going to come out on top because our insides are hurting and their outsides look really together, especially the bully. Looks really together. Let me tell you that the bullies are hurting inside. Does that excuse their bullying? Absolutely not. But our empathic children, or us as empathic children, are prime. We are primed to be harmed by the bully because we care. We care what others think and feel, so much so that they're able to own us, basically. So we have to teach our children to allow other people to think and feel how they think and feel and to not jump into that. To not believe because a bully says it makes it true or a mean person says it makes it true. Mean girls are a real thing. Mean boys are a real thing. And our empathic children pay the consequence for that. So we have to teach them to be in strength in their empathic energy. And there are different ways to do that, which is in my book, Infinite Life, Infinite Lessons, by the way. It's in that book, Learning to Teach Your Children. So empaths are also the go-to people. And even as children, other children that are kind and empathic are going to go to your empathic child, especially when you teach them to empower themselves. And they're going to tell them everything that's going on in their life. And your empathic child's not going to know what to do with that. So I want you to be able to open the door for them to come and talk to you without judgment. It's really hard when you're a parent. Because what happens if you don't, things that happened to me will happen, which is I became an overeater child. I stuffed my feelings with food. I would go to my room and I would isolate. I became shy. I didn't know how to be there and show up for others without taking on the energy. Teach them how to do that by healing yourself. Most of the time, if you have an empathic child, there's an empathic parent in the family. And empathic parents usually get involved with narcissistic parents. I've talked about that in the last empathic video. And I was talking about mostly empathic adults. And so here's this child in a household with narcissism or overly empathic parents. And so we have to help them learn how to navigate those waters. And really, it's about teaching them to honor themselves, to trust their judgment, and to know when they've had enough, to know to be able to say, I need to go home now, or to go and have some silence, because empathic children get overloaded, empathic adults get overloaded, and they need quiet time. And maybe quiet time is just talking to their mom or their dad, their other empath, or one that's healed themselves. Us healing ourselves is a such great importance. And I have to be honest with you guys, I had so much trauma in my life that I wasn't healed when I raised my children. And still sometimes I behave unhealed. And that's okay. I forgive myself for that. I knew what I knew and I couldn't know what I didn't know. So give yourself grace. But know now, since you know, because you're listening to these podcasts, so you're learning, just if this is the only thing you've learned, but I'm sure you've learned other things, that it's time to focus inward and heal that so that you know how this is affecting you. And if you have a narcissist in your life or someone that borderlines on that, not every person who acts narcissistic is a narcissist. We all have a little bit of narcissism in us. We want to protect ourselves. Um, and we want to come first sometimes. We all have that, even the empath, but there's a degree. And if you are dealing with a narcissistic person or one that has high levels of narcissistic behavior, you're going to get slaughtered. You are. And so you need to learn how to care for yourself. And if that means you need to pull away, pull away. If that means you need to not engage, don't engage. If that means that you need to honor your feelings, which should be honored over everyone else's, you honor your feelings. If that means that you have to learn that how you feel about yourself and your response to things is more important than how they feel about you and your response to things, do it. Learn that. Because I have just recently in my life learned that my feelings are valid and I have a right to respond the way I need to respond and feel how I need to feel. That doesn't negate their feelings and their choices. It simply means that my response matters and my feelings matter. And that's a hard one because I question that. I want to question, am I being over dramatic? Am I overreacting to this? Am I over responding? No. If I feel it, it's valid. And if those are overreactions to someone else, that's on them. If I feel it, it's valid. If your child feels it, it's valid. Hear that. Because your child's going to go through life comparing their insides to others' outsides, and other children's outsides don't always reflect what they're feeling inside. So teach them that what they feel is valid. A lot of times we'll say to our child, oh, I'm sure they didn't mean it that way. Yes, they did. If your child tells you they meant it, they meant it. Honor them. I understand you feel they meant it that way. How can you better deal with it? That's a much better response. And when we learn to take care of ourselves, which again, I've just learned in recent years that my feelings are valid. When we learn to take care of ourselves, what do we teach our children? How to take care of themselves. In my journey, I felt a lot of guilt with my children. It was overwhelming to me because I knew that my reactions, responses, etc., were not always healthy because I came from a very unhealthy alcoholic family with a lot of trauma, and I gave myself no grace. I loved my children so immensely. They were my everything. I adopted my children. I waited for them for years and years because of the damage inside of me. I wasn't able to have them inside of me. I knew they were brought to me by spirit, and I honored that so intensely, and I adored them. I mean, I'm serious, you guys. They came first over myself, so I didn't heal myself. They were my everything. They even were put on the planet to heal me, I thought, because I felt so wonderful. I was a mommy. Oh my God, that was everything to me. And I taught them that they were more important than me. Not a good way to teach your children. And I taught them if they didn't think that I was good enough, I wasn't good enough. And that's not the way to do it. So they feel that when other people don't think they're good enough, they're not good enough, right? So, what we teach them, they emulate. So I really want to encourage parents out there that have been through a lot of trauma to heal. For me, every time I started to heal, which I did try, I did go to get help and I did try to look at myself very much. But every time I did, somebody else committed an act that was painful for me. So died by suicide, or there was murder, or there was horrible people that I would want to please. Because my thing is if you loved me, I was lovable. I was worthy. And I didn't realize that if I love me, I'm lovable and worthy. So, how do your children learn if you're not teaching them that? And this is why I'm pressing this home so hard, because I didn't know how to teach my kids that. And still till this day, there's times when my kids do something that hurts me, I over respond. I feel it so deeply because I love them so much. And I always believed that their opinion of my parenting was more important than mine. Now, this has changed. I'm telling you, this has changed. And the freedom of that is enormous. My feelings about my parenting, and I was a wonderful mother. I wasn't a perfect mother. I was a wonderful mother. I loved them beyond measure. I think more than I loved myself or anything else in my life. That was a gift I gave them. And I paused my life. I paused it, all my dreams, all my hopes, and put them on them so that they could be more and have all their dreams. I didn't ask them to have my dreams. I gave up mine so that they could have theirs. And I didn't pursue the things that I wanted. And I was a human being. I gave it up for them for years and years and years to be that mom who was here cooking and giving and doing all those amazing things that we do for our families. I was that mom. I was that wife. My dreams were put on hold for 30 years. And when I started to step back into my dreams, I wanted their support so much. I wanted them to be so proud of me. And I had an expectation. And let me tell you, expectations are premeditated resentments, because nobody's going to meet your expectations. I don't care who they are. They're not going to meet them. So I was devastated, and I kept reacting and reacting and reacting to that. Today, I'm just taking action. Today, I say to myself, how they feel about me isn't as important as how I feel about me. And I see how fortunate my children were to have a mom who loved them that much. They were lucky children, regardless of the baggage I brought to the relationships. They were so fortunate to have me. And I know that today. I know that because love is a superpower, and nothing loved them more than me. Nothing and no one. So did I always handle and teach them right? No. So I want to say these things because I want you to learn to heal yourself so that you can actually be me and feel how I feel and actually know that you were healed and you taught them how to love themselves, because I don't know if I did. And I see them doing things that tell me that they love themselves. But I think sometimes we teach our children to love themselves more than they love others. We want it to be equal and balanced. That's what we want for them. We love others and we love ourselves. We do for others and we do for ourselves. We show up and suit up for others, and we show up and suit up for ourselves. That's a hard thing to do. And I don't know if I taught everyone that in my life. What I taught people was that I could do it for me and I could do it for them, and they didn't have to do it for me. And when they didn't, I was devastated, but I taught it to them. So I have to hold that responsibility. Now I'm trying to teach them that I need them. I need them to show up. I need them to be present. I need them to understand my feelings. I need them to understand me. Nobody taught me how to do that when I was a child. I want you to teach your children to be able to do that so that they don't have to be my age or, 55 years old when I was 55, trying to learn that, trying to receive what I needed or what I felt I needed. I don't want you to do that. So number one, don't lose yourself in your empathic child or in your child. Learn to teach them how to treat others, but to love themselves also. That's going to be the hard part. Empaths are the go-to people, right? So everyone goes to them, as I said earlier. They need to learn when they're overloaded. I never knew when I was overloaded, so I would get upset. And I would behave with an upset response or an angry response instead of, I'm overloaded right now. I need to go in my room and take a breath. No one taught me how to pause. Teach your children how to pause. We're loyal to a fault. This is truth. So we have these great forgetters, and someone will hurt us, and we'll forgive them instantly. And then we'll forget what they did. And when they do it again, we go, what just happened? Everything was wonderful. And then we forgive them and we forget. And then they do it again. And we go, what just happened? And I would go to people and go, I don't know what just happened. Everything was wonderful. Now I feel like I was knocked off my stool. What just happened? What did I do wrong? And they'd say, what do you mean what just happened? What do you mean? It happened last week and the week before and the week before and the year before and the year before, et cetera, et cetera. And I would be in shock. It did? It happened before? They were mean to me before? They were nasty to me before? They didn't show up for me before? They didn't care before? That happened before? And they'd say, yes. And I would think, oh my God, I have the greatest forgetter. Why am I so shocked this time? Why? And I kept stepping into that relationship, allowing it to keep occurring. Teach your children that when people show you who they are, they need to believe them the first time. They can give them grace. They don't have to be mean and nasty. They can hope that they'll make changes or heal. But we need to believe them the first time. Wow. If I had known that, things would have been very different. And that great forgetter wouldn't have confused me so much. We also teach our children not to trust their judgment. So even till this day, when someone does something unkind to me, I'm questioning everything about me, not them. Everything about me. Am I wrong? Am I being overdramatic? Are my feelings invalid? No, no, and no. Teach your children that their feelings aren't invalid, that they matter. And if that other person doesn't see them as mattering, then that other person is not someone they need to have around them all the time. That doesn't mean we call them toxic and walk away and never speak to them again. That means we need to be cautious and honor our feelings. That's what that means. So if you teach your children to honor themselves when they're young and to find their emotions and their responses as valid, it takes the power out of others' hands and empowers them to trust themselves. I still to this day question myself. Did I respond right? Am I overreacting? Am I being dramatic? What if I am? Those feelings have harmed me. Those actions have harmed me. Those reactions have harmed me. I'm okay with that now. It's okay that I feel that way. And if they don't love and honor me enough to recognize that, something's wrong with them, not me. That's how I view it. Empaths are victims of people. They don't behave like victims necessarily. But when something hurts them and they say, this hurt me, to victimize someone for telling you it hurts them is being cruel. Teach your children not to allow that. Teach your children that if you tell someone how you feel and they victimize you and call you dramatic or, overreacting or whatever they do with that, they're not honoring you as a human being. And they don't honor your feelings. So maybe that's not a person you want in your life. Or maybe that's a person you need to be cautious with your feelings. It's that simple, my friends. Not easy, but it's that simple. Teach your children when they're young so that they don't have to be my age questioning their truth and their reality and how they feel. They don't have to trust other people's feelings about them. They trust their own. Because people always have an agenda, right? If they've harmed you, they have an agenda. And that's to protect what they did. So they're going to tell you you're wrong. Trust your judgment. And if you teach your children to do that because you've healed, it's why I'm saying it to you, so that you heal this in you, so that your children have a better life journey. We are loyal to a fault. If I didn't say that earlier, if I did, I'm saying it again. We will be loyal no matter what someone does. That's not healthy. Our great forgetters do that to us. We want everyone to be their best selves, and we believe they are. And when they show us different, we're in shock. So are those children. Teach your children that we don't have to be loyal to someone who doesn't earn the loyalty. That's a big deal. Please teach your children that. Does that mean we have to be unkind? No. Does that mean that they're bad people? No. It means we don't see the loyalty. We honor that. Oh, my glasses are crooked. I'm moving them around. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see me doing all this stuff. We have to teach our children that we can come in with believing people are loyal, but when they prove us wrong, don't be heartbroken and shocked. Or we can come in with, I need to make sure this person is loyal and that they're going to honor me and not betray me. I need to make sure. So we're already starting to protect ourselves, and we're aware that that's a possibility, so that when it happens, we're not in shock. And again, with that great forgetter, we go right to shock, even as adults. Like, how could they betray me? How could they be disloyal? Because that's who they are. And they justify that. Does that mean they're wrong? No. No. People can do whatever they want to do, but that doesn't invalidate your feelings about it. Your feelings are yours to own. Empathic children are extremely intuitive. They feel everything. They don't always listen as well as they should to their feelings. So we need to teach them to trust their judgment. Back to that. Very, very important. I learned not to trust my judgment. So again, I learned that when things happened around me, I couldn't trust that what I witnessed it as was real. So I kept questioning. I kept asking why. Why are they acting that way? Why did they do that? Why did they hurt me? Why did they? Instead of why am I? Why am I would be a better question. Why am I questioning me? Why am I not stepping away? Why am I not honoring my feelings? Why am I not enough? Why do I have to say, I'm so good, I'm so kind, why do they treat me that way? Why can't I just know I'm good and kind and this is not about me? People do what they do because of who they are, not who I am. How I respond to what they do decides who I am. And believe me when I say I don't always respond well. And neither will you. But we do our best. And as we get better and heal, and as we grow up in homes that are healed and that teach us that, we don't have to question it. We just know. That's what I want for your empathic child. We love animals and they love us. So they can be our refuge. So I want you to always remember that. They're going to love animals. They're not going to hate animals. They're not going to hurt animals. They're not going to be disgusted by animals. Empathic children, truly deep empathic children. Now, there are people who are empaths or have empathic energy and it's strong and they don't want to be around animals. That's okay. But truly empathic children, they adore them. So the thought that you might not like an animal or you might hurt an animal or an animal gets hurt is going to really affect them. And we communicate with animals without speaking. So we know when they're sad, just like they know when we are. Animals are our families. So when an animal is sick or needs us, so as a very strong empathic child, we're right there. Unfortunately, damage that's done to empathic children as they become adults, sometimes they flip that energy. And all they want is animals. And the humans around them get treated poorly. That's a sad one. That's one that we want to really work on as empathic adults, because we get so guarded because we've been so harmed that our responses to other kind people is not good. We are often very bullied and we're not part of the crowd. So, having said that, we're looking for the outside in to fix us as children. Children that are empathic are like looking through a window. They're not part of. They'll step through the window to try to fit in, but they don't. You don't want them to. You want them to empower themselves. And then they can be in any environment and feel empowered, but they don't have to fit in everywhere. And that's really important. So please, take your empathic child and teach them. Once they're developed and everything is understood, and they recognize themselves as an empath, their brain waves can connect to that beautiful gift. Their brain waves can connect to the soul. which is the beautiful part of them. We live in an overtly logical world, my friends. And we, as empaths, we don't see it as logical. We see it as suffering or pain or confusion. So we want to teach children that they don't have to be confused about who they are and what they are. They undoubtedly have more difficulty in the early stages of their lives. How can they not? So if you're healed, you'll teach them to be healed. Now I want to look down here because I really feel that there's a few things I didn't say. I want to remind you that they feel anxious and afraid. They're very afraid and anxious about physical and emotional hurt. I was a healer. I wanted everyone and everything to love me. And when they didn't, I immediately went to what's wrong with me. Immediately. Every single time. And one time somebody shared this with me, which is so empowering. And I've never forgot it. And I was a young girl. It was actually my sister. She said to me, I was suffering over some kids not liking me. And I was crushed. I just wanted to be liked. That's all. I just wanted to be loved. That's all. By my children, by my husband, by my friends, and as a child. By my mom and dad, by my friends. I just wanted to be loved. And I was the bullied person. And it was extremely painful for me. You have no idea, unless you're a bullied person, how painful that is. And it changes us, innately changes us internally. So I had countless tears, and I didn't like my empathic soul. And I would say to myself, I want to be just like that mean person over there. I don't want to feel this way. I want to not care. I'm so glad that didn't happen. I may want it, but I wasn't getting it. And I thank God today. So when I work with empathic children, I'm always talking to them about that. When you feel empowered, you won't want to be like those mean people. But this is what my sister said to me, because I couldn't stop focusing on the cruelty of these people and that they didn't like me and they were saying lies about me and they were mean to me and they all rejected me. And she asked me, do you like them? And I said, well, I don't really. No. Do you like their behavior? No. Do you want to be like them? I absolutely not. Then take it as a greatest compliment, because people who don't like you because you are not like them. Whoa. Well, I wish somebody would have taught me that as an empathic child. People who don't like you because you are not like them. That's the greatest of compliments. So look who you're wanting to like you. Look at who they are. And you may find that they are nothing like you. They would talk bad about people, or they would harm people, or they don't care if they harm people, or they cause problems, and they're whirlwinds, and they're Tasmanian devils, and they go through everything and cause destruction, and they're not there for you, and they're not kind to you, and they ghost you, and they hurt you, and they do things that they know are going to harm you, and they do them anyway. Those are people that are not like you if you're an empathic child. And if you're an empathic child, you're probably listening to this podcast. So the spirit world teaches us through what we view. Our view of things is extremely important. The reason I'm having this conversation with you, it is all about the afterlife, because the spirit world created us as empaths. And they want us to learn how to maneuver through that and manage that and be whole and complete with that. I had empathic children in my home, so that helped. So this is going to be a bit longer podcast, so I'm going to go through some things with you. Empathy is the medicine the world needs. It is the medicine the world needs. And your empathic child is unique and beautiful. They are that unique medicine. But the floods of stimuli coming in can be a lot for them to deal with. So we want to make sure those children and young adults don't get depressed. The way to keep that from happening is to empower them. And if you're empowered and you recognize your energy, they become empowered. So with your love and guidance. So I'm going to go through this little list I have of ways you can support your empathic child. Make sure their home environment is safe. Teach them how to handle situations that are baffling them. As with all empaths, teaching them self-care is essential. We as empaths feel selfless or selfish. There's no middle ground. Teach them self-care. That's the middle ground. And I'm going to be doing a podcast on self-care. So we'll talk more about that. Show them how to set boundaries and make sure you teach them through example. Teach them how to say no. This is necessary for self-esteem and self-care and self-respect. They don't have to be mean about it. No is a complete sentence. No, I won't be doing that. That's a complete sentence. We don't have to explain ourselves. No, I won't be comfortable with that. We don't have to explain ourselves. If you do that, I want you to know that I'll have to take care of myself in that situation. We don't have to explain ourselves. Show them how to remove themselves from situations or environments where they feel uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, you guys. If somebody had taught me to do that, I can tell you that there would have been a lot of times where I wasn't abused. I'm still learning. I'm still learning to say it's time for me to leave. Whoa, it's so hard. It's so painful for me. Show them how to remove themselves and then honor that. Okay? Most important is show them love and acceptance. With your help, they'll learn to navigate their empathic energy and they'll learn to understand it in its totality. They will ultimately thrive in it. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast today. I hope this helps you when you're working on helping your children who are empathic and you feel lost and alone. My book, Infinite Life, Infinite Lessons, talks all about this. There's a whole chapter on it, and it talks all about empathic children, so you don't even need to write everything down. It also has exercises for you and your children to learn how to navigate these waters, because the ebb and flow of these tides will pull you out into the abyss. Take care of you, and until next time, remember they're only a heartbeat away.